Hi, good morning, everybody. Sorry I'm not here today. I'm going to give you just a quick refresher if you've seen it already, and if not, this is actually not very difficult. As long as you understand how to solve a one or a two-step equation, this shouldn't be too bad. In fact, I would say there's even less work involved. Okay, so here's how these work. First, we're talking about solving, and by the way, we're on page 30 here. Okay. Talking about solving literal equations. What that means, first of all, a literal equation is just an equation um, with many variables. So think formulas. Some formulas that you already probably know. Area for a rectangle is base times height. Area for a circle is pi r squared. So these are examples of literal equations. Okay, they're basically just formulas with more than one variable. And sometimes you will see regular numbers in there too, but everything is going to be treated the same exact way. Okay, so I'm going to do a few of these different problems on page 30, and then you guys are going to finish these up on your own and then move on from there. Okay? So, all you have to pay attention to is what you're trying to isolate. So here it says solve for x. So that means we are trying to get the x alone. And there's simply one step to do. Right now, this y is multiplying the x. So to undo y, to undo multiplication, we divide both sides by y. Okay? When you divide both sides by y, the y's cancel, and so you just get x on the right-hand side. Over here, and this is what I mean by it's less work. If these were actual numbers, like 20 equals x times 5, okay, you would first divide by 5 to get x alone. Then you get x equals, and then you'd actually have to figure out what's 20 divided by 5. In this case, 20 divided by 5 is 4, right? Well, with formulas, it's similar to solving equations. A lot of times you don't have to actually do math. There's no numbers to simplify or figure out. For example, here, we have to do a over y. Well, we don't know what a is right now, and we don't know what y is either, so we just leave it that way. Okay, so there's no there's no room for error, really, like thinking that 20 divided by 5 is 5 and getting that wrong. You just leave it as a over y. All right. Let's try. I'm going to go ahead and just do real quickly these three, and then when I'm done with the notes, you guys will do the right side, 2, 4, 6, and 8 on your own, and then move on from there. Okay? All right, so here we have some equations where the goal is to get y by itself. Okay? So let's think about getting y by itself. Okay, so first, since we have a negative 2x and that's being added with 3y, we can add 2x to both sides, and then we get 3y equals, and now, here's what I mean by no math really. We can't add 6 with 2x. They're not like terms. So you can just leave it as 6 plus 2x, okay? And then now, forget about what's on the right-hand side. Your goal is to isolate y. Just like before, how do you get rid of the 3? Well, since it's 3 times y, now you divide by 3. And you get 6 plus 2x divided by 3. Now you can try to reduce. So if you have it written this way, you could also take, as long as you divide, if you divide every term by this, that's acceptable. So you can do 6 divided by 3, which is 2. And then 2x over 3, you can just make that into 2/3 x. So both of these would be acceptable. Okay, but this is fine. Okay, if we're just trying to get y by itself, we've done it. We've gotten y by itself. Let's do this one. So this is similar. We're going to first subtract 4x to move it to the other side. Be careful when you copy down your next step because this negative still needs to be there. Okay, so bring down the minus along with the 6y. And I'll write this a little differently. So you might have seen in the past, usually we write the x first, and that's okay. So if I were to write negative 4x first, since this 12 is positive, you just keep the plus 12 at the end. So that's the other way that you can do it. Okay, so you could either write it as 12 minus 4x, or you can write it as negative 4x plus 12, and that's fine too. And just like before, you divide everything by this coefficient, which is negative 6, and now you get positive y, since the negative divided by negative is positive. And let's go ahead and reduce here. You see how all of these numbers are even? Okay. We can type negative 4 divided by negative 6 on the calculator, or if you can just do it in your head, that's a lot easier. But reduce that fraction, and you get 2/3. Okay, so we're going to get 2/3 x, and then a positive 12 divided by a negative 6, that's negative 2. So this would be the best answer here. Okay. And last one looks a little different, but again, the goal is still to get y by itself. Okay. If I'm just getting y alone, I could simply subtract 3 on both sides. So I have y equals, and I'm just going to copy this down, negative 2 parentheses x minus 5, and I'm just going to put the minus 3 at the end. And now we're going to try to simplify, okay? So if I distribute the negative 2, you get negative 2x, and then negative times negative is positive, so that's positive 10 minus 3. And so then here, you can combine like terms now. The 10 and the minus 3 give you positive 7, and so this would be your final answer. Okay. So again, not too bad. Sometimes there's not too much math involved. For example, like if it's all variables, I actually think those are easy because you don't really do anything except just leave it. If there are actual numbers involved, then you do reduce and simplify along the way. Okay, so hopefully this isn't too bad. Makes some sense. And go ahead and finish up page 30, and then go on to the next activity.